another very special episode of Tea Time, back again from Delhi. We're at KP Greens at Greater Noida, and I'm Chetty Nirula. Today on the show, I've got a Silicon Valley genius. He joins me in Delhi all the way from California to discuss how he became a serial entrepreneur and how people in the world continue to consume media, especially in the emerging markets. And that's what Vuclip, the company that he co-founded, is all about as well. On the show this week, we have Nickhil, Jakatdar, CEO and co-founder Vuclip.
You're spending 4 hours on a golf course with the person in a golf cart or walking.
Right.
And that gives you a lot of time to build a relationship. And at the end of the day, the one thing I've learned is it's still a people business.
In news, Charles Schwartzel wins China Masters. And David Lynch shoots 63 to win Portugal Masters, ending a 9-year wait for his second European Tour title. Off, Nickhil.
Thank you.
Welcome to India and welcome to Tea Time.
Thanks a lot for having me.
You're a Silicon Valley genius. Indeed, a pleasure to have you on the show. So how did you embark upon this entrepreneurial journey right there in California?
So I was doing my PhD at Berkeley, and while I was doing it, it was 95 to 99,
right.
The beginning of the dot-com boom.
Right.
And everyone around me, all they ever spoke about was dot-com this and dot-com that.
Correct.
And I just wanted to be part of that. I didn't really know what that meant. I just felt like that was a good thing for us to be a part of. And so a colleague of mine from my research group and I, two of us got together. And without having a specific product in mind, we started the company first. And then over the next 6 months...
straight out of college?
While in college.
While in college you started? Yeah. So which was the first one that you all started? Because I know you founded about 3 to 4 companies.
4 companies, yeah.
So which was the first one?
The first one was called Timber Technologies. It was a semiconductor chip manufacturing software company.
Right.
So we allowed the chip makers in the world, like an Intel or a TI or an IBM, to make chips more efficiently.
Right.
That was the first company we did. Followed by a company out of MIT. The first one was my PhD thesis that I made into a company. The second one was the PhD thesis of 7 MIT PhDs who decided to commercialize their technology, and I went to run that company. The third was a group of PhDs from Berkeley again,
right.
And that was in the area of CAD, computer-aided design. And the fourth company was
Vuclip, which we're going to be talking about today on the show. Now, interesting that you're a serial entrepreneur. You're also somebody who loves playing golf. How did you embark upon the golfing journey as well? Did it all start off back there in the Silicon Valley?
Yes. In fact, the first company was acquired by a Japanese company. Right. And being part of a Japanese company, golf was definitely something that was
comes along
important
with
part
the territory.
Yeah, exactly. And I got started that way. And then as I played it, I enjoyed it more and more. And I felt like it was a perfect mirror of a startup. You know, in a golf game, you go through ups and downs and bad holes and good holes, but you need to keep playing through it. You can't give up on the 14th hole. And so I just
every tee-off feels like a startup, and every startup feels like a tee-off.
Exactly.
So talking about the fourth company which you founded, which is very recent, Vuclip,
yeah.
You founded this company with a vision to impact the way people consume media, especially in the emerging markets as well. More on that.
We started the company about 5 years back. And
right.
when we started, it was a time when YouTube had been acquired.
Right.
The iPhone had just come out. And what we believed was that it was only a matter of time before mobile and video became really big.
Right.
And with that in mind, we said, let's go after those markets where the mobile is the most important screen. See, in the US, I have a desktop, I have broadband connections, I have cable, I have lots of access to video. So mobile is my second or third screen. But in many of these markets like India, Southeast Asia, Africa, Middle East, the mobile is the first and maybe the only screen.
Maybe the only screen, yes.
Right? And so we said, let's go focus on attacking those markets, providing those consumers with a great solution. And if you do that well, that's a huge market to go after. So that's how it came about.
So on that note, let me tee off and we discuss a little more on Vuclip.
Good luck.
What is it about your business in terms of the entire construct that looks after the entire mobile ecosystem?
So in the mobile ecosystem, we see the following players. There's the carrier, the telcos, the Airtels and the Vodafones of the world. There are the content providers. There are the handset makers, the Nickhil and Samsung. And then there are the brands, the advertising brands, the Unilever, Procter & Gamble. And then, of course, at the middle of all of that is the consumer.
Right.
And so, for the consumer, our value proposition is clear. You go to Vuclip. It's your one-stop shop on your mobile device to be able to watch videos from all over the web on your mobile phone when you want it. So that's the value proposition for the consumer. For the carrier, we help consumers watch videos, which means they need to get data plans. That's a monetary value to the carrier.
Right.
To the content provider, we help their content become more discoverable on the mobile device.
Right.
So they make money because of that. So that's value for them. For the handset guys, they're all looking to make video a critical part of the handset. We create apps for their handsets that make their handsets look good. And then finally, for the brands, the advertising brands, their audience is moving from TV to internet to the mobile internet. And so whatever advertising they were doing on the TV, they now want to get to that same audience on the mobile internet. And that's the audience we provide them. And so if we do our jobs well, everyone in the ecosystem benefits. And that is something we put into place right from the beginning. There are other models which help one part of the ecosystem more than the other. Our objective is if the entire ecosystem goes up, we will rise with that side.
India and China, the biggest emerging markets today, we continue to remain on the opposite side of the spectrum as far as smartphones are concerned. How do you deal with a scenario like that?
When we started 5 years back, everyone said India and China will sort of go on the same trajectory.
Right.
But what we found was in China, Android has taken off in a big way. The iPhone is doing very well. In India, the iPhone is not doing all that great relative to other markets. Android is expected to take off, but it's still relatively in its infancy, in its early days.
India, I think it's more dominated by feature phone market more than the smartphone market.
That's right. That's right. What we are finding that's interesting is in India, the low-cost smartphone is what we see becoming big. The masses want more than a feature phone, but they can't afford a $500 phone.
Right.
So they go buy a sub 5,000 rupee phone, which is Android, and it works way better than a feature phone does, not as expensive as a high-end smartphone, and you can go watch video, you can do a lot of interesting things, and that's the segment that we see really taking off in India.
All right, so a lot that the starting up professionals in India and young budding entrepreneurs need to learn from a Silicon Valley genius like Nickhil. We're going to remain in conversation with him on the other side of the break as well. Take a quick break. We will see you on the other side. Thank you for staying with us on Tea Time. We're in conversation with Nickhil, who is the co-founder of a company called Vuclip based out of the Silicon Valley. We are at a nascent stage of mobile TV viewing and mobile video clips as well. Would you agree to that?
Yes, I think it is. Today there are about 700 million TV viewers in a country like India.
Right.
There are only 100 million mobile internet users.
It's very nascent.
It's very nascent. So what you're saying is absolutely true. What will stop that, what will change that is three things. The mobile devices have to get better.
True.
The networks have to get better so that the experience is much better.
So from 3G you move on to 4G and you just keep going up the ladder.
Exactly. And the third thing is the affordability of the data pricing has to get to the realm that the masses can benefit from it.
Right.
And these three things are already happening in a pretty significant way. From 2G we're going to 3G. We're going from feature phones to these low-cost smartphones we spoke about. And data plans have gone from 10 paise per 10 kilobytes to now for 49 rupees you get a gigabyte. That's a lot of data.
There is that very slow but steady shift that we're seeing in terms of preferences as well. Having said that, you're saying TV viewing is not going to change in this country. It is going to remain as it is, isn't it? But there is a part that will eat up into the shares. Would you say
I
so?
think a lot of the TV content, the TV channels will want to ensure that in addition to their TV presence, they have a mobile presence
as well.
I don't think they can ignore that. I think until last year it was too small. This year, 100 out of 700, you're already talking about 15%.
True.
And, in 2 years it's supposed to become 300 million. And TV will go to 800 million. So now it becomes 40%.
True.
And so between now and moving forward, there is going to be a need to make sure that whatever presence you have on TV, you have to have a sister presence on mobile.
Now, for most smartphone users, including me as well, downloading apps is the more likely thing to do. But downloading video clips is something that you resist doing. Is that impacting you somewhere?
So, in a country like India, about 10% of the users are smartphone users.
Right.
90% are feature phone or these low-cost smartphone users.
Right.
For them, downloading an app is a significant friction point. The lower the barrier to adoption, the better. And so the approach we have taken is make it all browser-based.
Right.
Right. So you click on an SMS somebody sent you, it opens the browser, and you can start watching the video. That anybody can do. Right? And that is what we expect to see for the next few years.
But are consumers resisting from downloading that video clip that you are surfing online?
We aren't seeing that resistance at all. In fact, what we're seeing is simplicity is what they care about. So whether it's streaming or download, all they want to do is click on a button and the video should start playing.
Right.
And that we enable. Now, to the point you made, in 3 years, that behavior will change. And as you get these low-cost smartphones having their own app stores, which some of them already do, they will also start downloading apps, and that will become the way to go about doing things. But what is important is for us to handhold the consumer from introducing them to the world of videos and low-cost smartphones to taking them up the value chain to where they can do, download an app and do all the same things that we do. But it will take a few years.
Nickhil, now the same Ericsson mobility report that we were talking about goes on to say that video will account of more than half of global data traffic by the year 2018, making it the largest segment of data traffic worldwide. What kind of a trend metamorphosis are we heading towards?
Yeah, I think the number one thing this is going to do is it's going to really hammer the mobile networks.
Right.
So the amount of traffic that's going to be squeezed through the carrier pipes is going to increase dramatically. And they're going to have to come up with ways to handle that. So while on one hand it's an opportunity, it gets more consumers onto data plans which provides more monetization for the carrier. On the other hand, it's going to have to mean that carriers can handle the load. Because if they can't, the consumer is going to have an experience that keeps buffering.
True.
And that is the end of that.
Are the carriers ready now for this metamorphosis?
I think they're all aware, very aware of the dangers of what could happen if they don't manage it. And they're all doing pretty intelligent things to go account for that. But the rate at which video is taking off is going to mean that they're going to have to make those changes faster and faster and faster if they want this to be a trend that continues till 2018. Otherwise, way before that, it's all going to come to a screeching halt.
Okay, Nickhil, rather a challenging time, of course, for the mobile carriers as well until the year 2018. But what's challenging now for us is the bunker show that you're about to play.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
Thank you.
Fabulous one, Nickhil. On that note, let's take a quick break right here on Tea Time. On the other side of this break, we will still remain in conversation with Nickhil and see what his advice is to the budding entrepreneurs of this country who are about to start out. Thank you for staying with us on Tea Time. We're in discussion with Nickhil of Vuclip. He has founded the company, and we were discussing about smartphones and feature phones in the market and the demographics and the consumer preferences as well, and his, of course, advice to the young startups in India as well. Let's start off with, so Nickhil, you are somebody who has invested in about 20 companies. You also have founded 4 companies of your own. What's next for Nickhil in his career?
So once I'm done with the Vuclip, and I hope that done means I made it a big success, I'll go find the next adventure. You know, when I did the first company, when I was done with it, I didn't know what the second company was going to be or whether I was even going to do a second company. And then the right situation presented itself, and I was excited and passionate about it. I got into it. When I was done with the second, I thought I'm going to retire now. But the third company came calling, and it was an exciting thing I was passionate about. When did that, and so I've not got any plans. I'm sure
I have a
something.
feeling the 5th one is on its way, isn't it?
I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
And so you take 6 months break after every company that you end up selling. And in these 6 months, you play a lot of golf, isn't it?
A lot of golf and a lot of poker.
A lot of poker as well. They're two dynamically different sports, if I'd like to call poker a sport.
Right.
They're so dynamic ends of the spectrum. How come poker and golf?
Golf, because I think it teaches me a lot about patience, and I think that's a very valuable lesson for every entrepreneur to have, is things don't just happen overnight. You know, Facebook has taken 9 years, YouTube has taken 7 years before they reach profitability.
Right.
So patience is important. Poker teaches me something else. Poker teaches me a lot about reading people and keeping your ego under control. You know, how often do you play a game where, you know, you're trying to bluff, you put in some chips, the other person calls your bluff. Do you want to go put more chips, or say, you know what, you got me this time, I'll fight the next battle? And keeping your ego under check and being humble is something that every entrepreneur should always have.
Now, Silicon Valley, a place that you've been living for over a decade now, has been instrumental in helping you to set up this entire startup ecology as well, just by the virtue of the way things pan out right there in Silicon Valley. It's, of course, the hotspot for every startup to be. Now, how important it is to be there? Can you not do the same thing out of a city like a Bangalore, Pune, or a Delhi, or a Bombay in India? I mean, I know that Mark Zuckerberg also, after he founded Facebook, just straight away went to Silicon Valley because of the right ecology existed there.
Right. And I think right there is the answer. You can always start a company anywhere in the world and be successful.
You don't have to be.
You don't have to be in Silicon Valley. However, having said that, what Silicon Valley brings to the table is it's got an ecosystem that's very, very conducive to being an entrepreneur. And what that really does is there are a lot of real challenges that every startup has. And then there are challenges that are unnecessary.
Right.
Like how much time does it take to incorporate a company?
Right.
You know, things that shouldn't really be issues. I think Silicon Valley has taken care of all of that. If I want to go find a lawyer in Silicon Valley, it's 15 minutes worth of work. There is a network that gets you to the right lawyer. If I want to find someone who is an expert in user experience, there are about 100 of them in a 2-mile radius.
Right.
So how much time it takes to go look for people, all of that is taken care of. That gives me an opportunity, that gives everyone an opportunity to focus on the real challenges that every business has. And that's what really differentiates Silicon Valley. Like you said, Zuckerberg also had to move. He didn't have to, but he did, because it helped Facebook become bigger, faster.
True. Now, your advice to budding entrepreneurs in this country. A lot of entrepreneurs who are out there would want to be you one day. What is your advice to them?
From my own experience, the one thing that I've learned is anyone can do a startup. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be anything special. I think what you need are a couple of things. Number one, you should not be afraid of making mistakes. I mean, if I make a list of all the mistakes I made, I could write books just on the mistakes I made. But I think it's okay. I think it's okay to make mistakes because that's how you learn. The second thing is follow your passion. Trying to do something that doesn't excite you every morning isn't the right thing to work on, because every startup has challenges. And if you're working on something that you're not passionate about, it becomes a drag. You keep going to work and your shoulders are drooped and it's just not fun. So if you follow your passion and you're not afraid to make mistakes, anybody can do great things. The last thing that I would say is look for a good mentor. I think what a mentor does is he or she helps you accelerate you don't have to make all the mistakes or learn all the lessons the hard way. You can learn some because of other people's experiences. And so having a mentor you can count on, you can trust, is a phenomenal advantage. And I've had my fair share of them.
On that note, let's finish our game and we'll talk a little more about golf.
Right.
Talk a little more about networking on the greens. What is the kind of network base that you have formed in California, just networking out of playing golf? A lot of that must have come about, I'm sure.
Yes, it did. I think my first and the second company, part of the sale could be attributed to the golf course.
Really?
Yes.
So you sold 2 companies just out of a golf course networking?
I think that helped in a big way. I can't attribute it completely to golf, but golf had its place. And in terms of relationship building, you're spending 4 hours on a golf course with the person in a golf cart or walking.
Right.
And that gives you a lot of time to build a relationship. And at the end of the day, the one thing I've learned is it's still a people business.
Sure.
And you get a great opportunity to get to know the other person. They get to know you. A certain bond and trust gets built. And when you're actually in negotiation mode, they can trust you that much more and you can trust them that much more.
All right, Nickhil, thank you so much on that note. It was
Thank you.
awesome to have you on Tea Time. On that note, that's a wrap from Nickhil, Jakatdar and me, Jakatar on Tea Time.